with all the big calls on all the big races. It's time for a classic What a Shout. Yes, here we are. Racing resumption in 2020. It's been a year, but we're back in our calendar position as ever. It is the Derby weekend. Oaks on the Friday. Cannot wait for that at Epsom. And then the big meeting itself on Saturday. Myself, Dave Orton, back with you. Delighted to be here in the capital. Filming on Friday morning. It's all in-house this week with our sponsors, Bet365. Paul Kealy back in the studio. Full of pomp and hope, Kills.
Yeah, I'm not so delighted. I was supposed to be going to the Oaks today, but it can't happen. Missed out on some tickets, but other than that, yeah. No.
Is that why we've got you? I see.
That's why you got me, yeah. I could have just squeezed this in anyway, but...
I thought you were, man. I thought you were.
No, I managed to miss out on some tickets. It was a funny thing that you enter to get a chance to get into the ballot, right? And when you get an email and say you are in the ballot, it's then a case of fastest finger first. Now, I didn't get in, but some friends of mine did, and one of them... Well, she said the internet went down, but I think she just forgot. You know what I mean? So I ended up with no tickets.
Or she wanted to get up on Saturday morning looking forward to the Derby rather than feeling terribly hungover with Keels. There you go, honesty from Keels. Chris Cook, frontrunner, comes and joins us again.
How are you, Dave? Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back in. I know it's a fair old drive for you in the mornings, Chris, but you're full of hope as well. We had last week, didn't we? We looked at the Derby, and we'll have a little bit of a crack about that later on.
One of my theories has been turned upside down already, but yeah, there's always hope on a Friday morning, isn't there?
Quite absolutely. And from our sponsors, Bet365, Pat Cooney. Where is he this week? Are you at home again, Pat?
Yes, Stoke-on-Trent. Wish I was at Epsom, but what a weekend to look forward to, fellas.
Absolutely is. All right, let's see what's coming up then for you on this show. We have got the hot topic, Derby data. We'll be having a look at the big race itself in its entirety, getting the views of the panel, and exactly what the race has become these days, what it means to them. We'll be giving you six big race previews. 2 on the Friday, 2 on the Saturday, along with some big calls, and of course, the all-important weekend winners. Derby data. See what they did there? Okay, let's crunch some numbers a little bit later on once we go down the panel. Now, Kills, I want to come to you first. You are Mr. Epsom. We say this all throughout the jump season. You say, I live in Epsom, I'm close to this and close to that. You can't even go, which is ridiculous, isn't it? But last year, they had to fence off the course. There was no dash, was there? All that sort of thing. But the meeting's back now. We've got crowd.
Yeah, we've got some crowd. It's not going to be the same, is it? I mean, you used to go down to Tattenham Corner Station and people would be unloading crates and crates of beer and dragging them along to the infield. And, you're not going to have any of that sort of atmosphere there. But it's great to see a crowd there. I mean, I must admit, my enthusiasm for racing over the last few weeks has skyrocketed again. And I think I'd lost some of that enthusiasm because it becomes dreadfully dull when you're just watching something with no atmosphere. I mean, people have said the same thing about football, haven't they, and other sports. When you watch something, there's nobody there.
Like Kempton on a Wednesday night, it's been all throughout,
I went to Sandown last week, and I was amazed at the cheers for a couple of the outsiders. And I think it's just because you're so not used to cheering. Like, you know what I mean? But, it didn't feel like the sort of muted response you'd get for an outsider winning. It was people, yeah.
I was told it was an enthusiastic crowd.
It was enthusiastic, yeah, definitely.
Yes, and I think you were heard cheering for the rafters more than anyone else.
It was incredibly well run as well. Yeah. Like, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to go again.
Yeah, it's Derby Day, Chris. Of course, it used to be on the Wednesday. We still get the traditionalists out there. Some people call them dinosaurs. Why is it run on the Saturday? All that sort of thing. What has the Derby become these days? I mean, can you remember your first Derby winner, Chris? There's a question for you.
First, well, I'm after timing by 30 years here, but generous. It was the first bet I think I ever made with my own money. Certainly that's what I tell myself now. It's too long back in history for anyone to be certain now, so no one's going to contradict me on it. But yeah, I remember going into sort of the manky old bookies down the road that I'd always been looking forward to going into when I was just barely turned 18 and had a few quid on generous, and I think Hailsham for that Derby, would that be right? And it worked out. Just a horse I'd always liked, But I mean, if you went back and interrogated the 18-year-old me about why have you picked that horse, there might not be too much depth to the form analysis.
Paul Cole, of course. Keels, how far are we going back with you, man?
I vague memories of Shirley Heights, I think. Now, it wouldn't have been anything other than my dad was watching it on the telly and I saw it. I was sort of half interested in racing there, but that was just only to watch his response while sitting in an armchair and grabbing hold of the arms if he had because he was one of those superstitious people who never told you what he'd backed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can only tell by his reactions, sort of thing. You know? And that's the sort of thing that got me into it.
I remember that with my dad when Uncle Merlin fell at a Beecher's second time, where he didn't fall, that he unseated Hugh Davis. And God, the words I learned that day.
The double bluff. No, not had a bet. Come on, Dylan. Yeah, absolutely, quite right. Pat, let's come to you. Derby Day then. How's it changed over the years?
Oh, it's still the second highest turnover race in any bookmakers. The Grand National stands well alone, but the Derby is a clear number 2 in the list of turnover races, irrespective of what day you're running on. It's just the race that has just, it's still got the magic about it, and it's been a very bookmaker-friendly race in recent years as well. So I think Authorised was the last dreadful result we had. Of course, a favourite with Frankie aboard, but it's 4:30 on a Saturday afternoon, perfect timing. And it's still got the mystique about it. But it's about time we had a good Derby winner, though, isn't it? I think we might get one this year, whatever it is. But in recent years, they've been a bit, he won't be the best horse by the end of the season. I think it's different this time around. I think we've got a real high-class Derby to look forward to.
Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Well, listen, up on the screen you can see some stats coming up. The dreaded draw, of course. I'm going to talk about that in my big call a little bit later on, this draw ceremony. But anyway, here we can see in the last 12 years, guys, on the screen, you'll see how many horses have won. That's, of course, in the what can we call that, magenta? And then blue, of course, is a place, I think we can call that blue, in the Derby from each stall number for the last 12 years. And there's a proper omission here, guys, isn't there? For anyone that doesn't know out there, the last Derby winner to do it was Oath, of course, in 1999. That's the last Derby winner that I can remember sort of backing in my youth, for a right few quid. One of the horses got me into it. But we wheel out this stat every year, Kills, don't we? It comes back out, you forget about it. There was only one horse to do it. Of course, it was Oath. But it's a remarkable stat, not just in the Derby, but over a mile 4 at Epsom.
This is the point, it's not just in the Derby. Oath is actually the last winner from Trap 1 and a race over a mile and a half with 10 or more runners in it. And that's 1999. We're on 2021 now, so it is a massive negative. And the problem is they start uphill, and they start on the right, and then they come across. Now you're either going to have to hold back and be behind a wall of horses, or you're going to have to rush yourself up to get a position and not get that wall of horses. And the problem is, it's the most stamina-sapping part of the Derby because it's uphill. So you're using up an awful lot of energy to get a position in the first place, or you're going to sit and suffer and wait from behind. And it's very, very hard. I mean, obviously, Oath, ridden by Kieran Fallon, Mr. Epsom at the time. I mean, he was, just different class around there, wasn't he? So it's going to, anybody drawn in that stall, or indeed stall 2, which is, a similarly poor record, they are going to have their work cut out.
Yeah, we're not giving tips in this bit. Stay tuned for the tips a little bit later on. We'll do it in its preview in its own right. But Chris, stall 2's never won the Derby. Yeah. Ever. So it's not just stall 1. I think the bottom 4 stalls, only 2 horses have placed in the last 10 years. It is not the place to be, right?
No, it's a proper nightmare. And the other thing that particularly affects Derby and the Oaks is you're talking about still fairly young, inexperienced horses. Balls of fire, some of them. So, I mean, if you try and go forward, you urge your mount forward, and then getting him back and restrained, 100 yards later is really difficult. You were talking
about a horse there. I was like, what a great name for a horse that would be. People looking it up on the BHA website, can I still have that?
Some of the names that I see running the next couple of days would be a lot more dodgy than Balls of Fire anyway. Right. But, it's really difficult. But, I mean, I think it depends, doesn't it, on the number of runners, and we only have 12 in the Derby. Part of me is thinking that you might just be able to get away with it, depending on what the others that are drawn low are going to do in the stages. Some
very well fancied horses have been beaten from one. Saxon Warrior, we were talking just as we came in the studio, was the one I remember because it won the Guineas. Everyone was on the double in one, gets buffeted about. You said Kills, turned out it wasn't actually that good.
It turned out, he wouldn't have won it from. It looked like he was going, but he didn't actually stay, did he? At the end of the day, and it turned out he wasn't quite.
That was Massar's year, wasn't it?
I'm sure I've seen a list somewhere that somebody did a couple of years ago about all the horses in the Derby that started from Trap 2 and got beat. And it's not the most impressive list. There's not many names on there that ring down through the years. So there's an element of that. But of course, as you said, it's not just the Derby. This affects handicaps as well.
Yeah, so that's been the big news this week, waiting for the draw to come out. Of course, Aidan O'Brien just running one. We were on the show last week and we crunched some numbers, Chris, didn't we, after your front runner email saying it's a lot more fun to back the second, third and fourth string. 5 in the Oaks, but just 1 in the Derby.
I mean, I don't want to be too egocentric about it, but he obviously did that just to annoy us, didn't he?
Right.
My theory is that, they've looked at the decks for the Derby at the 5-day stage, haven't they, and gone, oh my goodness, there's still a lot of horses in here.
Yeah.
They really fancy Bosch or Bailey. They really, from a stallion perspective, they could do with him winning. I think they're determined to try and make him a Derby winner, and so they thought, well, maybe if we take out some of these other horses, and there's less sort of a risk of him being drawn out in the wing and having a real disadvantage in a big field,
Yeah, so that's been big news. I've got to feel for Adam Kirby a little bit, haven't you? Because was due to take the ride on John Leaper, Ed Dunlop's hopefully new superstar that runs in the race. Frankel out of Snow Fairy, bred to be winning it, no problems whatsoever. And then, of course, just the one horse for Ballydor, which means Frankie gets back on. I think that was the news, wasn't it? Having initially turned down the ride. But poor old Adam Kirby then picks up another ride in the race on Adayar, who chased home third realm in the... And where's he drawn?
Track 1.
Track 1. He's probably thinking to himself, I wish I'd never got out of bed this week. But what did we make of the Frankie getting back on?
Well, it's one of those things. You have to have sympathy with the jockey that's lost it, but at the end of the day, it's one Derby. If it's your horse and you get the opportunity to have someone like Frankie Dettori on it, I reckon 99 out of 100 people would take it. It's as simple as that.
You think punters are looking at it that way as well?
I don't buy into all this loyalty nonsense because it doesn't work in the real world.
Yeah.
Right? You get the best available. That's what Lester Piggott did all those years ago. It's not like it's something new. It always happens. If there's a really top class jockey around and he's available, somebody with a fancied runner is going to have him.
I don't object to using best available, but it's not all that many years since people were talking about, is Frankie ever going to win a Derby? And then he had to get on the sort
Authorised.
of hot shot authorised, and it was done, and now of course he's won 2, and even though he's sort of 50, everybody would rather have faith in him in a big race than anyone else. But I'm sure Adam Kirby feels he's just happy to be in the race. There's lots of really good jockeys, including the champion, that they don't have a ride in the race. Holly Doyle won on John Leaper, didn't she? And I think a few people thought she was going to come in for the ride, but she's not in there.
It's happened last year, of course, didn't it, with Tom Marquand and English King, and Tom ends up getting a spare, if you like, on Khalifa Sat, ends up finishing second. So, listen, we don't know. That brings me to the point of which Pat made. Is this a good Derby? Before we go in, obviously no tipping in this bit, but is this a good Derby? We've got some very, very interesting horses, but is it a good Derby?
I'm saying no.
Yeah.
Depth-wise, I'm saying no.
Okay, Chris?
It doesn't feel like a standout, but then, you don't know for sure until like 3-4 months from now.
Yeah.
I give them the benefit of the doubt. All I ask from a Derby is that it's interesting and competitive, and this one is more competitive, I think, than the odds about the favourite suggest.
Well, thankfully, we've got all the trial winners. We've also got a Guineas winner as well, who won the Vertemturity last year as well. Jim Bolger's McSweeney. Let's have a look at what Jim's had to say to Bet365.
He probably is the best prepared horse that I have sent for the Derby. Well, the breeding of Max Sweeney goes back probably 30 years at this stage. I bought a mare in America that hadn't been very successful on the track or breeding, but I liked her and I liked her pedigree, and I got her for $5,000. Along with having a nice bit of ability, she had all the bits in the right place and she was a great looker. We bred her and she bred a number of winners. The most important one that she bred was Holland Asira, which is by Teofilo. I think he was the 4th or 5th foal, and he's by New Approach, a horse that we had here as well, and was champion European 2-year-old and champion European 3-year-old.
But New Approach, he's a body colt, he wins the Derby.
And a very successful sire, and he's already bred a Derby winner in Mazar. We're hoping that Max Sweeney will go on to achieve at that level as well. We always liked him, otherwise he wouldn't have had the name Max Sweeney on him. So that was a big risk. Imagine the stick I would have got from County Cork if it hadn't worked out. We thought he'd run a very good race first time out, and he did. I think he won at the second attempt. Then he went on to win a Group 2 as a 2-year-old.
It's Ontario, swamped by Max Swinny and Cadillac. Max Swinny.
We went on to Doncaster then, and he won the Vertum Futurity, which is a good pointer for Epsom, and sometimes for the Guineas as well. He progressed well over the winter. First time out at Leopardstown in the Derrenstown, it was a lackluster effort for him. And we were a bit surprised at that because he'd seemed very well all week before it, and his scope was good on the Friday. When he was scoped again on Sunday or Monday, he had a good bit of mucus in his trachea. He got cleared up anyway and went to the Coronation a week later and won the Guineas. We know that he handles soft ground very well, but we always looked on him here as a good ground horse. So hopefully when he gets good ground that he'll be even better on that. I'm perfectly happy with his form, and hopefully he has the ability now to supplement his form. Bolshoi Ballet was very impressive at Leopardstown. If he turns out in the same form at Epsom, he's going to be very hard to beat. It probably would be the biggest day of my racing career to win with him, and I don't think anybody would get more satisfaction from it than I would.
What an absolute pleasure that was then, a real insight into McSweeney. I'll tell you what, he could have been called McSwiney if it had all gone wrong, but not a bit of it. He is as tough as they come, and he like the trainer, of course, Chris, and he's ageing a lot better than us, isn't he? That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is an addition to that theory that trainers put something themselves into the horses. You know, everybody talks about how Mark Johnston horse is just impossible to pass. And Jim Bolger's best horse is really, really tough. You know, they can run just about every week.
He's the prototype, usually Braveheart, isn't he, with his horses and all that sort of thing. But yeah, this would be a remarkable story. That is a look then at the big race. Well, don't forget, we'll be giving you our tips later on in the show, finding out exactly what the guys make of all the individual form lines. Okay, but now we've got to look at 2 races on the Friday for you, starting with the Coronation Cup. A Group 1 showpiece, chaps, and I said to you in the office before we came on, is it fair to say that this is going to be an informative Group 1, which a lot of people and punters will be hating to hear, because we've got older horses that should now have shown all their colours and we should know everything about them. But I think personally, having looked at this race, this will set the narrative for the older middle distance and probably the middle distance division in Europe this season. Kills, shall we start with you, because we have a hot pot here.
Yeah, we do have a hot pot, and you know it's a horse that I get wrong all the time.
Shall we start with this? Come on, this is.
No, I think.
Can we call this a cliff horse for taking on reasons?
A cliff horse for taking on. Yeah, I mean the only time I backed him, he finished last when he ran against Mogul, and he's won in two starts either side of that, hasn't he? So he's won 4 out of 5. Yeah. I had a chunk on when he couldn't raise a leg. Now he was really, really impressive at Newby last time, but on easy ground, on a flat track, and in a Group 3. And he beat Thunderous, and I think the market has just gone a little bit overboard, because I think for certain Japan would have done exactly the same. I think Piledriver probably would have done exactly the same, and Mogul, although he might be a little bit quirky, probably would as well.
Like, but it's the style of his success.
Yeah, style, but style over substance.
Which I think viewers will know now.
But style over substance is what costs people money. At the end of the day, because you keep seeing these horses win like that without looking like they're turning their hair. 1, it takes more out of them than you think it does, and 2, they probably aren't that much better than the actual form if they're pushed out. Might be completely wrong. This might be an absolute superstar, and I'm prepared to see him be one. Right, but he's got to do it at the top level. He's never even run in a Group 1, and it was a shade of odds on at one point. I think he's eased a bit now. He's the wrong price against, you know, a world-class horse in Japan who, you know, let's not forget, got beat only half a length in the Derby, and then won his next 3 races that season, including the Jubilant International, where he beat Crystal Ocean. Now, I can't imagine Al-Azi being odds on to beat a horse like Crystal Ocean. Like, you know, if Japan comes back to that sort of form, now last year was a washout for him, and we don't know why, but he won first time out at Chester. For the first time in his life, he won first time out. It's a very, very good sign that he is on the way back. He's kept in training. Doesn't need to keep, you know, dual Group 1 winner in training. He can go straight to stud. So they've kept him because they think there's more good races in him. And we know he acts on the track. And I'll give you one more thing about Al Azi.
Here we go.
One more thing about Azi. He's a highly strung horse. All right? He needed two handlers in the paddock at Newby. All right? The last time he raced in front of any sort of crowd was in October 2019 on his debut. All right? So he's going to have, there might not be a massive crowd, but he's going to have people around him in the parade wing. How's he going to react to that?
He got beaten by a horse called Tom Collins that day, didn't he? Of course, we know because we
did,
work with TC, of course, and it keeps coming up as a bit of a giggle. But you said there's something. I mean, you really looked into this horse. You were talking about the heat.
Oh well, I was trying. Well, heat-wise, I was just trying to find a reason why, other than carrying my money, that he got beat at Goodwood. And I just thought, well, it was height of summer, and he's a highly strung horse, so maybe it was hot, and he sweated his chance away or whatever. When I had a look, it was 29 degrees that day. And I looked at all his other runs, and it was never higher than 19. But it's going to be something like 19 today because it's all changed, isn't it?
This is what you've joined, Chris. No stone unturned.
I absolutely love it. I hadn't even considered the whole temperature angle. I don't know where you would get that data.
There are boys working on it at the post right now.
Yeah.
Al Azi or to not Al Azi?
I mean, for the reasons that Paul said, you don't want to have maximum faith in him because he is a little bit untried. But that's why this race is so unattractive from a betting perspective, and I think the Coronation Cup often is. So, I mean, it would be a no-bet race for me. I don't feel like taking a short price when, it's on really fast ground. He's got to go up and down hills, and we haven't seen him prove it at this level in anything like these circumstances. But you just don't have the material that you could be confident about taking him on with. The Japan of 2 years ago, no problem, I could get behind him. But I'm afraid he kind of regressed last year, which you hate to see in an older horse, and I'm not completely sure he's got the appetite for it anymore.
The Ormond form in his comeback at Chester, I heard Aidan talking in the week, and he said, we ran him over the mile 5 to give him confidence. We didn't want him racing at mile 2 speed, all that sort of thing, which I thought was quite an interesting line. And we're either looking at that Ormond form, aren't we, where we've got a Coronation Cup winner and a future Gold Cup winner next month in Trushan, who ran absolute blinder, or we're looking at Japan and Trushan. If that makes any sense. It could be sizzling form, couldn't it? But we're going to find out today, I think. Trushan will crash or any, I think, kills for the Gold Cup if this goes and wins.
I'd imagine he would because, he was the best horse in the race.
Giving him weight.
He was giving him weight and he was around the outside. And I'm just taking positives from the fact that Japan was able, that was, probably easily his best run first time out in his life. And even though he wasn't at his best last year, his best run was second time out when he was third to Gayeth in the Eclipse. So this may be the time to catch him. I think it'll be absolutely spot on. And if there's a chink in his armour, he'll find it.
He can make the running.
I think he might do because there's no obvious pace setter. He tracked the leader at Chester, but why not? If you want to give a horse confidence, why not stick him out in front and just let him roll away?
A select Group 1 field then. We were supposed to be whittling through this, and yet the fascination of this race means that we've kept going on. Japan, no bet.
Probably not. One thought I had was maybe Paul Driver would go to the front, and if he does that...
You have been speaking to connections, haven't you?
I was talking to the owner, yes. He wasn't giving anything away tactically, even if he's discussed it with the trainer and the jockey yet. I certainly think that being on the front at Epsom in these conditions over the 2 days is going to be the right place to be.
I bet he'll have his back as Paul Driver. I think Al Azi will come good. Mr. Haggis, don't worry. We'll have you back on the show. Thank you very much. Pat Cooney then. This has been a good race of favourites, isn't it? Are you Al Azi?
I'm an Al Azi, but as bookmakers, isn't it nice to have brothers, Japan and Mogul in your corner? The brothers, but they're very patchy, aren't they? They're very inconsistent. When they get beat, everyone says, oh, he needed the run, the ground was wrong, the trip was wrong. They're two brothers with so incredibly similar CVs in that their very best would put them bang there. And they both of them can win. But I thought Al Azi, he just tracked Logician. He made Logician look ordinary, a St. Ledger winner. But the stats gurus in the office have given me two pearls of wisdom. He is in stall 1, remember? And we've been going on about stall 1 in the Epsom Derby being a terrible draw. Okay, it's only 6 runners. And one of the stats gurus in the office, I don't know if he was just trying to make us feel better because we've laid plenty of Al Azi anti-post. William Haggis at Epsom, fellas. Overall, William Haggis, he tends to run at, 23%? Just looking at his stats here. He's had 125 runners at Epsom in the last 5 years, 13 winners, just 10%. He's trained a Derby winner, he's trained an Oaks winner. I don't take it seriously, but is that a reason to get him beat as well?
His last winner at the Epsom Derby meeting was Dancing Rain in 2011. 35 consecutive losers since then.
Oh, dear.
But, I mean, they're stats that, I think the stats you can take seriously and the stats that you can just fall into one of those things categories, and I think that's one of them.
Unbelievable. So, having just got back in curried favour with Mr. Haggis for a return to the show, Gills has just got an insured we're going to have to give him an even bigger fee. And he's just called Japan a mogul. The Chuckle Brothers. No chance of Aidan O'Brien coming on then. 4:30 then on Friday is the first classic of the weekend. It is the Epsom Oaks, the filly's time to shine. We've had a hot pot in this, Pat Cooney, since she was fourth. Beaten favourite though as well in the Guineas. That's Santa Barbara. I hear she's on the drift.
She's on the drift, and she's probably getting to the price that perhaps she should be, really. I mean, if Aidan O'Brien hadn't said what he did at the start of the season, she would have been a lot bigger, wouldn't she? I mean, you look at her form, one run as a 2-year-old, very impressive, but, lots of horses win as impressive. Fourth in the 1,000 Guineas, straight here. She lacks experience, not gone around a bend, but it's Aidan O'Brien. They think the world of her. You could see her winning comfortably, but it's just not there in the form, because you're hard pushed to say she's a value price, even at, let's say she's 5-2, maybe even gets a bit bigger. You're just hard pushed to make a solid case out for being a bet. So I think others in the race you have to take seriously. Zayada, stall one again, amazingly, for a mile and a half. Well, that'll be against the stats. She's probably emerging as the best backed alternative in the race, and you can certainly see that. I thought Snowfall again. Do you take the York run seriously? There's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes about this race. This is far from cut and dried, this one. And Tiona of Roger Varian, he's got Sayada as well. She's been the mover as well. She might have to behave herself on the way down to the start as well. She lost the race at York because of that. But it's a lively old market, this one, more because of the doubts about the front runners rather than the positives.
Okay, let's go down the line then and see what the guys think. Keels, Santa Barbara. Let's just get this out of the way. It's another one you're taking on.
Yeah, won't stay.
Won't stay.
Simple.
Give us a quick summary of that, because I came in the office and I said, Order of Australia stayed, the half-brother Kills. He was by Australia, she's by Camelot. Why don't you stay? And, of course, Kills looked into this a little bit more.
Well, he won a Mickey Mouse race over a mile and a half, but then he was dropped in trip. And you've got to remember, it was the Breeders' Cup mile that he won. Iridessa was the other half-sister.
Philly's mile winner.
Philly's mile winner, but who stretched her stamina out to win Philly and Mare over a mile and 2. But certainly never got a mile and a half. All her other siblings are less heralded siblings. None of them got a mile and a half. Santa Barbara didn't hit the line hard in the Guineas. She lost 2 places close home. I don't see how she stays. And okay, it might have been only her second start, but we know that Aidan O'Brien has the facilities and the horses to really drill them at home, and they were expecting much better than they got in that Guineas. And I think it was a bad Guineas as well, by the way. I think the best 3-year-old miling filly didn't run in a classic, and I just think it was a bad race, and she's a bad fav.
Okay, Chris, a quick word on Santa Barbara. She's obviously doing something right, isn't she? I mean, he's got 5 darts at this in total odds against the Derby runner, but
I have very similar concerns to Paul. I mean, you look at that Guineas replay again in the closing stages. Saffron Beach is finishing much better than her.
Oh, she's not going to stay.
And I even think that Santa Barbara was on better ground at the end of that race than Saffron Beach was. So, you look at the pedigree. Order of Australia was a maiden until September of his 3-year-old year. She just needs a bit more time, doesn't she? I'm sure she can be a good horse one day, but this is a bit soon in her career. Double figure field in the Oaks. It's not ideal for her.
We're not looking at another love then in Santa Barbara. But you and me, like Pat, do like a Ballydoyle horse, and it's Snowfall, the Musadora winner. Long time since the Musadora went on to follow up at Epsom.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way going into the Musadora I would have looked at her. But I mean, the way she's done that, and I think, again, a lot of people are sort of taking it away from her a bit because she had a soft lead, fair enough. But, she really powered home, and I completely buy this idea that she's just a different horse this year. You look at her pedigree, and there's the ready explanation. She's bred to be 3-year-old and older, as she steps up in distance. Frankie Dettori aboard, she'll be at the front end, I would think, again, maybe not right on the pace. But she'll be finishing strongly again, which I think a few of these fillies will struggle to do.
Yeah.
I think 6-1's pretty good price in the circuit.
Yeah, with Frankie Dettori on, she's going to have the supporters, me included. I think you pretty much summed that up. She wasn't stopping. It was a little bit more impressive on second glance. You can check that back in your members section. But Kills, you've said the best horse didn't run in the Guineas, and it is?
I said the best miling horse didn't run in the Guineas, and she's going to win the Coronation Stakes. That'll be Primo Baccio. I think I think Zayada is the one filly in the race who has the potential to blow them all away.
And on Thursday, on Wednesday when the draw came out, I should say.
Yeah, I'm all set to have a cracking bet on her when she gets trap 1, which is a nightmare. And all putting the stats aside, I can't let her run and not have some sort of bet on her because it would just destroy me if she did win. So I'm taking on the stats somehow. But I thought that Chester run was fantastic. They made no bones about the fact that she was really in need of it, and she was a massive drifter. She was joint favourite in the morning. She was 4th favourite by the off, and she got in a pocket a couple of furlongs out, couldn't get out. When she did get out, Dubai Fountain had gone. And Jim Crowley wasn't at his most urgent. I mean, he didn't give her a hard time, put it that way. I don't think, she probably wouldn't have got there anyway, but I think she definitely won with a clear run. She was given £3. Officially, Dubai Fountain is the best horse in the race.
What are we overlooking her then? Because she just...
I think that's a sort of an indictment of this race, that it is a really weak one. And this is the other reason. I don't think it's a very good race, and I think the one horse has the potential to be miles better than she is so far is Zayada. She won all 3 last year. For me, that was really, really eye-catching. And if Jim Crowley, I think I'd prefer he sat and suffered early rather than trying to rush up to get a position. Because, as Chris was saying earlier, if you rush a horse to get up to a position, then you've got to get to settle again. And once you get a horse running keenly uphill, you're wasting a hell of a lot.
You can get bumped about like a dodgem as well.
This is it. But the last thing you want, I mean, Tiona, a lot of people think she might get up and get past Snowfall this time, but she's got no chance if she's as keen as she was then, because if you're keen in an uphill stage of the race, you're going to have nothing left with 2 furlongs to go. And that's what would worry me. So I hope he sits quiet and suffers and comes round them all.
After Secret Gesture got beaten for Rafe Beckett behind Stephenweight Talent, having come out of stall 1 in however many years ago that was in the Oaks, I vowed to never back a filly coming out of stall 1 ever again. So I won't be with Zayada. But we had Roger Varian, as you well know, on last week. Chris, she had worked that morning and she had worked very well. I can only imagine the Cat did a runner on Wednesday morning at the stable.
I would think so. This race is set up for another heartbreaker for Zayada fans, I'm afraid.
Okay, all right. That is the Oaks then. No Santa Barbara fans on this panel. Let's get some big calls then for you on this classic weekend. I'm going to go first if you don't mind. I am getting sick to death of these. Nothing against Nick Luck and Martin Dwyer, who did the Epsom draw for the Derby, which we were all waiting for, by the way, and I don't think it was advertised very well. We can do a lot better with these draw ceremonies, can't we? The Stewards' Cup at Goodwood is the one, and the Air, they just make, it's like pulling teeth, Kills, isn't it? Surely racing's got an opportunity to make that a little bit more fan. Well, it should be more exciting, shouldn't it? We only have to look at Australia and America.
I think it's absolute rubbish. I don't know how you can make it exciting. You see the FA Cup draw and the Champions League draw and the World Cup draw, and they're all garbage. Every single one was rubbish. You can't make something that's so...
Do you think we should just scrap them entirely?
You can't make something that's so static, interesting, pull a ball out of a hat, put it up there. It's just not interesting, is it?
Right, as soon as you get tombolas involved, all the animation.
It was a tombola. You're right, it was. Exactly. I mean, in this day and age, we've learned nothing. But Chris,
go and have a lie down, get back up, and see what the draw's been done, and that's it. Forget all about it.
In Australia and America, they're big affairs, aren't they? It gets the public into the Kentucky Derby and
in the Melbourne Cup, didn't they project the draw onto the Sydney Harbour Bridge?
Unbelievable.
Or something like that. Well, it wouldn't have been the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
It was the Opera House, wasn't it? It was the Opera House. Yeah, it was absolutely. And they take them to all these great big buildings they've got over there. It's a big thing every morning. But look, we either do away with them, or it's just. I was waiting on that. Does anyone know who's in stall 1? I was thinking to myself.
I just don't care. I don't care about it happening. I'll find out in a little while. That's it.
Yeah, Nick Luck did his very best on Thursday, but it just reminded me we've got all these coming up this year. It's a tiresome affair, I think, to do over them. That's my big call anyway, something slightly interesting. Chris?
Do you know what's on my mind is these poor guys that work in flat racing have now got 4 months of constant work, because the way the fixture list works, there's just flat racing scheduled every day from now until the 3rd of October. It's something that the Professional Jockeys Association have been on to for the last couple of years. What they are looking for from next year's fixture list is at least one Sunday every month through the summer where it's just jumps racing, and then everyone who's involved in flat racing gets a little bit of a break. I mean, you still got horses to look after, but you're not just under that constant grind. Obviously, in terms of workload, that's something that trainers can manage, on their own in any case. But I just think that's a very fair point that, there's a relentless quality, isn't there, when flat racing really gets going. We all know how much action there is on a Saturday and a Friday. And you know, I think if the central authority can do something to make sure that people have a chance of a break, then that's great. We know ourselves that punters do sometimes complain when they look at a summer Sunday and they go, well, it's all jump racing, where's the flat racing gone? But there is
So I'll be one of them, Chris.
Yeah, I'd be one of
reason
them as
for
well.
it,
But
and,
I would be one of them as well. But that is a very good point. It actually makes perfect sense. Give them a day off.
Like
People don't get days off.
125 consecutive days.
Yeah.
I mean, blow that for a game of
I mean,
sport.
you know, I mean, I know you get abandonments in the winter, but perhaps we should have an all-weather only Monday or something like that just throughout the winter. Just
why
so
not?
the other guys have it. I mean, you know, it's not.
I think jump racing has
we
more
don't do
sort of
well.
blank
I'd
days through
sleep
the
all day
year.
if we did, but I mean, you know, but it was. It's
It is very interesting that someone's looking at that, though, isn't it? So watch this space, basically, on that. Interesting call from Chris Cook. Paul Kealy.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about that. I am hoping, and I'm sure trainers will absolutely hate it, but I am absolutely hoping that when COVID is all over, 48-hour decks remain for jumps racing. You know, I mean, it's you know, it's partly a very selfish thing. I just find, you know, I think it's much easier for punters to get that extra time that you can to look at the races. I mean, you know, I'm not just talking from a tipster perspective, because obviously we don't get the decks until 10 a.m. at the very earliest. The day before, when it's 24-hour decks, and then you've got your deadlines and you've got to be in early, so everything's a bit of a rush. But I mean, for punters in general, to be able to sit you know, the night before, you know what I mean, and be able to go through and have a good study up. You know, I think it's really good for punters. For trainers, it would be a right pain, but I just hope they stay.
Yeah, this is really said before on the show, of course. I thought that was a gimme. It was going to stay, Chris. So.
Well, we'd have to see. I think a lot of jumps trainers will push back on it, as you say. I mean, when you get to the big Saturday races, these are races that people have been aiming at for ages, and so you can be pretty sure they're going to turn up, whether, you know, if there's 5 mils of rain or not, kind of thing. Monday, Tuesday racing, it can be a bit different. You know, it starts to get frustrating when you get non-runners that completely change the betting market.
Yeah, but I think, you know, I think the flat trainers have got used to it, and people on the flat have got used to it, and I guarantee you there are more going changes during the summer than there are during the winter.
Sure.
You know what you're going to expect during the winter most of the time, and most of the horses will act on soft ground. You know, it's slightly different. You can get 5 mil of rain on a water track, and suddenly you've got soft ground from good to firm, haven't you? Like, you know, and that sort of thing doesn't happen over jumps.
Okay, a couple of watch this spaces then. Pat Cooney, a big call.
Yeah, as much as I'm looking forward to the Oaks and the Coronation Cup at Epsom today on the Friday, should it not be on Sunday? I mean, the recent winners of the Oaks, for example, Love and Enable, they've probably been better than their Derby winnings in the same season, and I don't think they probably get the credit they deserve. Why are we running the Oaks on a Friday? Shouldn't this meeting be a 2-day meeting? Derby Saturday, Oaks on the Sunday.
I'm delighted for
I mean, you know, I like a great bit of midweek racing because especially some Fridays can be incredibly dull, can't they? I get
remarkably so.
I get the point. I mean, I've always thought like 2 days is too much for Epsom, to be honest. Anyway, like, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. A lot of the races are poor, aren't they? Let's face it. Let's have Coronation Cup, Oaks, Derby, Dash, big 3-year-old mile 2 furlong.
Like the Queen Anne Tuesday, you mean?
Yeah, and that's it. But we'll get it over in one day.
No, I quite like having the 2 days with Friday, Saturday. I mean, they do it on the Friday, don't they, in normal times, because you get all the sort of corporate customers, and you know, which those people, they don't go to races on a Sunday, as we know. It's notoriously difficult to get big crowds spending a lot of money at the races on a Sunday, so that's why it happens.
One sense is we could have gone on debating those big calls then. Let us know what you think. You can do so on YouTube, of course. Get your comments in below, Facebook, or if, of course, it's Twitter. Anything, hashtag what a shout. If you'd like to sign up to our sponsors on this classic weekend, you can do so with a referral code. Type in on joining shout 365, minimum £5 deposit for up to 100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. 2:35 on Saturday. Let's get some tips coming your way, shall we? In the Princess Elizabeth, so Group 3 for filly and mares. Who do we like, guys? Mamora heads of the market at the moment, Kills.
It's a proper minefield, this race, and it's really tricky, isn't it? Because the form horses have all run below form last time. Mamora posted, and you've got the I can't remember the Parents' Prayer, is it? Parents' Prayer, something like that.
Archie Watson's
all soft ground form. So it's where do you look? And I thought to myself, well, Illicato beat Mamora last time. Mamora was fifth, but 2 lengths. She was really strong at the end. It was her first one at a mile. It was on a downhill track, Goodwood. She handles decent ground as well. And I thought, why not give her another shot. She's a big price.
I totally agree. And Mamora is £1 better off, Chris. She's got the fitness edge to come her way, I suppose, as a positive. Yeah. But Kills is right. The further they went, and this is slightly stiffer test, Ilikato was getting better, wasn't she?
I think that's probably just a line-through race from a Mamora perspective, and I'm going to stick with Mamora this time. I think you're probably just, in hindsight, not quite ready for that day. Stable wasn't firing on all cylinders at the time. Full month later, it might be my imagination, but I think the horses from that yard are going a bit better. And it was one of those, she kind of got a soft lead, so you think she should take advantage of it. She was the form horse in that race, but she hadn't quite gone quick enough, has she? She's dawdled in front, and that can really backfire on you because, like Richard Hughes always used to say, where do you want to be when the pace is slow? On the fastest horse, and on that day, it wasn't her. She just got outspeeded close home and not finished all that strongly. I would back her to put up a better effort this time with William Buick back on board, the jockey. He's done well on her in the past.
We were in agreement then that Goodwood race coming into this was the form line to be with at the prices. I thought Ilikato was the better value. Chris thinks that the Fab will take this out. What does Pat Cooney think?
I was always brought up to believe that classic form is the best form. So on that basis, Statement would be the one for me. She was 8th in the 1,000 guineas, which when you say, she was 8th in the one, you're thinking, she was probably beaten a long way. She was only beaten 6 lengths by Mother Earth. The form looks solid enough to me. Tricky race, you might need a couple of stabs at this one. But you look at Statement, 6th in the guineas, that reads quite well in the context of this race. So a race of negatives maybe at the top end of the market, as Keels has alluded to. A lot of these didn't run very well last time out, but Statement certainly did. 8th, beaten 6 lengths in the 1,000 guineas. Not too shabby, she'll do for me.
Some classic form for Pat Cooney then in the Princess Elizabeth. One thing's for sure, it's going to be a cracking finish, this. 3:10 following on. All-out assault on Derby Day we are giving you, and it's the Diomed. We've got last year's winner in this guy's Century Dream, who was thought capable of a bit better, Chris, I think, behind Palace Pier on his return when he had his ground.
Yeah, that was a tiny bit disappointing, wasn't it? And he's 7 years old now. I think I'd rather go for a younger model. And there's not much twang in his odds. So I was thinking Prince Ag, about 6-1. Fast ground seems to be important, and he gets it. He's been a frustrating horse, hasn't he? I don't think he's won since his very first race.
Ever so close at Ascot last time. You've got the feeling he might just come good.
And he was quite close to a really hot pace that day and kept on going whilst the front two that just dropped right out the back. So I think, another step forward, hopefully.
He's interesting, isn't he? I can see him going close. And I thought that was the race to concentrate on a few Rio Pozo, This Is Us, and Duke of Hazard. One of 2 for the Hayes, of course, in the colours. Now, this chap didn't have the headgear on. If you watch back that Ascot run, he usually needs a run, I think, to come back like Ascot. But he came there cruising, and you just got the feeling he needed it. There was a target later on. The headgear comes back on. Now, he's a bit Mr. Goodwood, this chap, but he's got Frankie on, and I thought at the odds, I like Bell Rock in the other colours, Andrew Balding's horse, but this is a step up for him. I thought Duke of Hazard was overpriced. Kills.
Well, I thought the pair of you were going to go throughout the race without mentioning the good thing, but you finally have Bell Rock. For me, Century Dream's a bit like Safe Voyage last week. Favourite on past glories, despite having run as though he was dragging an anvil last time. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? What's he doing at 3-1? He's won the race before. He goes to Epsom, blah blah blah. But let's look at the horse's form at the moment, and he ain't good enough to win it. Yeah. Bell Rock to me is a coming force at this sort of level. Now he was always really well regarded. He actually ran in St James's Palace as a 3-year-old. I think it might have been second time out, something like that. But it just didn't work for him in group races. But he was gelded last year, and suddenly he was better, and he ended up finishing 3rd in the Cambridge off a big rate. He always wins first time out.
That's the thing.
It was really annoying because I actually took him on because he was a really short price, and he drifted out to 13-2, and then he absolutely bolted up, and he hammered Maydani, who had finished behind at Goodwood when he didn't quite get the run of the race. And I think that Goodwood race, 1, proves he acts on the downhill track. Well, Newmarket's downhill anyway, most of it, isn't it? And 2, he acts away from Newmarket because he should have been second or worse in that race. He was 3rd. So I think he acts anywhere. He's done a massive career best last time. And that is as good as anything else in the race, bar a peak form Century Dream. And I just think, he's a young horse going places. And there's going to be a fair pace in here, and he will enjoy that.
There we go then. Bell rocked up at Newmarket last time. Kills thinks he'll follow up. What does Pat Cooney think?
Well, I fancy a 3-year-old, and again, that goes against the whole tradition of this race. 3-year-olds have got a pretty grim record in it. But Maximal, I was thinking, why is this running in the race? He's been running in Derby trials. He's been running against some of the leading contenders for the Epsom Derby. What's he doing in the race as a 3-year-old? But it is Sir Michael Stoute. He's only got 8 stone 8. He's dropping down in trip. There's lots of reasons not to fancy him, but he's a 3-year-old. His best days are to come. I can't really say that about his rivals. I'm just going to sit in the Michael Stoute corner here and say, if it's good enough for him to run in the race, it's good enough for me.
Oh, yeah, another fascinating contender then. In the Diomed, 3:10. We're all split. 3:45. Delighted to welcome back. Can you believe we're saying that? It is the fastest 5 furlong race in Europe, guys. Is it the Dash?
In the world, probably, yeah.
In the world? Yeah. There's got to be somewhere out there, isn't there? There's downhill all the way.
Only if they fire them from catapults.
I think so. Okay, Kills, I want to come to you with this. Me and Chris rocked up in the office this morning and I went, oh, this is just making my head hurt. You said the trickiest race.
In the year, for me, anyway, and I think really just objectively for punters, it's really hard. I can't remember having had the winner of this race. And let's not talk about whether that happens in other races. Well, I should have done it, yeah.
One man that loves it when we talk like that is sitting right in between us because Kills,
I love
sprints.
The puzzle. I love sprints. I cannot remember backing the winner of this recently, I have to say. Times I backed Caspian Prince, he didn't win. He won it 3 times. A great old fellow. He's still in it. Duke of Ferenz won it in 2013. He's running in it again. You always say when you come to this race, you've got to have that high draw next to the rail. And then you look at the last 9 years and 4 winners came out of stall 1 and 2. One of them, I think, was Caspian Prince. The other one was Ornate 2 years ago, came from stall 2. He's a pound lower now. I think he's just got himself nicely handicapped again to go really well. He's won twice on the all-weather this winter. Showing that he's every bit as good as he was. Had a break, ran at Haydock in that listed race last week, which is, just had to be a war on ground softer than he ever wants. And he's one of the few horses fast enough to lead Caspian Prince in the early stages. He can get across. I think he's a massive player. And for my sins, I'm going to give one more go to the lunatic that is Mondemege. And I think he is an absolute nutcase, but an extremely talented one. And he'll either take to it or he won't. But I think what we saw when he won at Goodwood Pontefract, he chased down Caspian Prince that day. Caspian Prince went really hard and he loved it. He then probably should have won at York behind Copper Knight, got himself a bit of trouble. He always breaks slowly, so he's going to have to come through him. And then he just sunk without trace on soft ground last time. What he wants is a really, really strongly run race on decent ground, which is going to get, he'll probably run sideways because you know what he's like. He does hang a bit anyway. But in terms of talent, he can definitely take the race out if he's on his A game.
I just see Mondemege and the in-running comment stuck behind a wall of horses.
I can also see disqualified placed 5th as well.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 darts in the Sizzlers tomorrow for Kills. Okay, all right. Ornate, the last time this was run, of course, he won it. That's why I like Recon Mission, who, of course, course and distance winner, came back for form last time with Tony Cowell. I say I like him. I could just see him tracking. Ornate, he's in 2, Ornate's in 6. Tom Marquand latch on, and he should take you there. Is there a quicker horse out the traps in training than Ornate? Probably not, is there? No. Chris, if you had to have one on top?
Sunday Sovereign was the one that caught my eye. Tim used to be yard going very well. They thought enough of this one to make him fab for the Norfolk a couple of years back, and he's kind of been a little bit in the wilderness, but changed yard a couple of times, and looks like he's on his way back. Down £10 from his original rating. He's well found in the market, but that's what I was thinking.
Bounced right back last time. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, this is a real bookmaker's race, this one, isn't it? 20 runners, there's 1 winner and 19 unlucky losers, aren't there, every single year? I keep coming back to Stone of Destiny, and I just think he's the most talented horse in the race at his official rating. He's drawn 17. He's a talented horse, this fella. Again, you need luck in running, but I thought he's run well enough both runs this year. Sylvester de Souza not on him. He's on Sunday Sovereign, but maybe Stone of Destiny. Maybe he better ride for Oisin Murphy. So I'll lean towards him. But you could have 2 or 3 stabs at this and not find it.
There you go. Then it's the Dash. It's fast and furious. Godspeed wherever your money's going. 4:30. It is the time for the aforementioned Derby. Of course, at the top of the show, the hot topic, we did Derby data. We looked into what we thought of the race. Kills said it wasn't a good Derby, but who is the best horse and who's going to win?
Well, I think if there's a potential superstar in the race, then it is the favourite, Bolger Ballet. He was really impressive with the Devon's Down. It might not have been a great race. You don't know because Max Sweeney didn't run to his form that day. But, he's got the pedigree. He's got the best piece of middle distance trial form by some way, I think, and he's going to be very hard to beat. Now, I looked at this race and then I looked at the rest of them. I thought, well, I can pick holes in that, and that. And there were so many that I didn't like. It comes to the conclusion that he's going to win it. I've backed a couple of rags myself. Youth Spirit, who won at Chester. I think that showed he can certainly handle Epsom if he ran around there. And I thought, he was well on top at the end. He's a guaranteed stayer. And Gear Up, who was 5th in the Dante, he beat Bolger Bally last year in the Grand Criterium. Okay, ground was soft, it wouldn't have suited that one. But he was a tough horse last year and he had a bit of a hold up, so he needed to run in the Dante. He'll stay too. And I'm hoping, there's some firms going at extra places and, there are available. And I'm going to bet without as well when Pat's lot come up with a market. Like, I'm interested to see, because they'll still be outsiders. And hopefully have a few quid without. One plus one, Max Swiney is a Group 1 horse on soft ground and listed at best on good ground. No matter what Jim Bolger says, we've got 5 runs of evidence on ground faster than soft, and his best racing post rated is 17 pound below his best on soft.
Did beat Wembley on yielding ground, which I mentioned to you, Chris. You said I could beat Wembley. This is the 2-year-old Wembley we're talking about, of course.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just being a bit cheeky.
You fell into the trap as well. You called him McSwiney, which his attitude shows he's anything
exactly.
but
Well, no, yeah, sorry, yeah. But even so, the trip might make a difference to him in terms of ability, but you just know that he needs soft ground, really. And then look at the others. I mean, I was saying, John Leaper. I mean, if John Leaper was named John Smith, he'd be 25 to 1. He's a terrible price for the Derby. He's won an absolute pants race at Newmarket, and he's an awful price. He'd be my place lay of the week.
I am very surprised. I'm a John Leaper fan, Chris. I backed him at Newmarket last time. He's a project I'm with. He's by Frank at Snow Fairy, Oaks. We know that she loves Epsom. Is there a better bred horse in the race? Surprisingly not, coming from, different quarters to Tipperary, shall we say. Bolshoi Ballet?
I mean, you've got plenty of ability. Wouldn't surprise you if you won. But I think you can pick holes in the form now, because the second was disappointing at the Curragh the other day for the second from the downside. I think it's quite, in terms of talent shown so far, it's quite finely poised between Bolshoi Ballet and Mahafeth, and the betting shoves you firmly in the direction of Mahafeth. He's about 6-7 to 1.
I've come down on him. I've got to say, the two that I'm going to take Bolshoi on with, I love Bolshoi Ballet. It's Hurricane Lane as well, the Dante. Done nothing wrong.
I can see that. People tell me that he's very heavy-topped and might not have...
This is Hurricane Lane.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
You wouldn't have too many gears, would you?
Yeah, I'm not.
He's 1-1-1. He's won a Dante, and yet the Dan won over 2 miles, didn't it? He's going to stay.
I certainly think he'll stay, and he might be good enough. I'm puzzled by the love for Mahafeth, though, I have to say. Again, it's another one that won an absolute rubbish race in listed company.
You say that, Kills, but the third has come out in a handicap and run right to that mark, and yet so I think he is a 1:17. I think we can say he is
in a handicap.
But listen, we saw that with Palace Bear last year. Come on, this is a different time.
Handicap form is
snail's
the most reliable kind.
William Aggis loves this horse, Chris, doesn't he? I think that Lingfield run shows that he can handle a bit of a downhill bend. I am surprised that I've got him on top, I must say. But the more I look through it, again at the prices, I was surprised that John Leaper was ahead of him. And
a four-runner race with nothing around the form is the way I'm looking at it.
Well, I mean, you only get limited opportunities to assess these 3-year-olds, and so you have to go with what you've got. I think, it's not for certain, but he could be, real talent who's ready to take another step forward. He's got to settle, but the fast ground really helps him. And it's in my mind as well. I think Godolphin are maybe going to use one ruler as a bit of a spoiler to go up alongside Bolshoi Ballet and make sure there's a nice strong pace, which again suit. I mean, Mahafeth is going to have that if they go a steady pace. Him and John Leaper. I think they're both Frankels, aren't they? They're both going to be over racing, and a slow pace is poison for them.
Any love for Third Realm out there?
Yeah, what I love about him looking at his races again is he's so biddable or adaptable. The jockey sort of takes him back, and he's happy to do that. He says, go forward, and he's really quick. The way he went around that bend at Lingfield was really quite taking, and I mean, he's going to cope with the track. I think if any horse can cope with being drawn 2 in the early stages, he'll be able to manage it. 14 to 1, bit big.
Very interesting. Roger Varian last week, Kills, you could tell he was sort of purring about him a little bit. You're not convinced?
Is he? You know, it's funny. I'm just not convinced about where everything is in the market. I think it's far more open outside of Bolger Valley than the market looks, which is why I've gone for a couple of complete rags.
Sitting in the wings then, let's get some help on the market from Pat Cooney.
I think you should just keep it simple. And there's no denying Bolger Ballet. He was so impressive, wasn't he, at Leopardstown? It is the Derby trial, the most visually impressive out of all of them. And the front six in the market all won last time out. They all looked the part, but he looked particularly the part. And I just think it's got to be so significant. Aidan O'Brien's just relying on the one. And that surely tells a tale about the race. Keep it simple. Bolger Ballet wins and wins well.
There you go then. Keep it simple, says Pat. Let me tell you, this is a good derby, no matter what Kills says. Weekend winner time. Here comes a four-timer that you've all been waiting for. Chris Cook, take the floor.
Snowfall, I think, for the reasons mentioned before, but I'm pretty confident you're going to see a big effort from her today. People are underrating her.
4:30 Friday in the Oaks. Frankie Dettori to take out another classic for Ballydor. Love it. Paul Kealy.
Yeah, I really like, what's her name? Bell Rock in the Diomed. I think Century Dream's the wrong price. I think Maximel is far too one-paced for a mile, and I think Bell Rock should probably be nearly fab.
3:10 on Saturday then for Kills. I'm going to go in the opener on Saturday. Patient Dream, Rafe Beckett. Drawn in stall 1, having won over the quarters and distance last time, been kept for this. Everything looks right. He's going forward. Get off to a flyer with Rafe Beckett. King Rafe in the first on Saturday. Pat Cooney, complete the four-timer.
Yeah, a winner is a winner, irrespective of the venue. So I'm off to Musselburgh for the 3:25. Number 2, Dushan with a D. William Haggis, 3 runs, won a maiden very handily last time out. William Haggis won this race last year, so he knows what it's all about. This is a horse that's only rated 85. You just know this horse. You're going to look at him in a couple of months' time and he's going to be rated 100 odd. So jump aboard him tomorrow at a rating of 85. Dushan in the 3:25 at Mussel's.
Is that like tipping at Southwell on the first day of Cheltenham? Kills was laughing at me.
Yeah, it's going to Hexham, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's at Sedgefield or something like that. All great causes, of course. People will love an away bet.
God, when I was betting it, I used to ban people from tipping at the away meetings when it comes to the big meetings. You're just not
I'm
allowed
sure you
to
did
do
that to me once, Kills, actually. I had to rewrite a post. Anyway, there are your naps. Well, that's all we've got time for then. A bumper classic edition of What a Shout. My thanks to Paul Kealy. Not going today, Kills,
Not
but
going today, no, but maybe settling down with a few jars and watching the action unfold.
watching the crowds, whatever crowds we've got going outside your front door, of course. People
Not
trying
that
to
close.
I bet the traffic's still bad going to the track. Chris Cook, thanks for coming back.
Pleasure, thanks very much.
Okay, all right. And Pat Cooney, you may still be at home, man, but lovely pearls of wisdom, including the Musselburgh nap.
Yes, thanks very much. Looking forward to a fantastic couple of days.
Absolutely, we all are. Let's hope you enjoy that sport out there. Don't forget to gamble responsibly. Don't forget to download the free must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store. Until then, from myself, Dave Orton, do enjoy that sport.